Welcome back to the Pewtercast. I am Brent Allen, your host, joined as always by my co-host Ren Daxt. And Ren, my friend, it is time for us to turn to our fellow fans to kind of get their final thoughts on the Bucs versus the Steelers, the Monday Night Football game. We got to give all of our final thoughts and grade out the team on our last episode, the first half of this one really, and now it is their turn. But before we get there, this is also the part of the show or the segment of the show where we like to read new iTunes reviews, and we have 2 of them that came in to us. So let's head over to iTunes and take a look at what they've said over there. Our very first one comes in from Zoosimics, I'm going to say. Zookimix, I don't know, something like that. This is a 4-star review for us, Ren.
4 stars.
4 stars. Oh, and the title says...
Hello, everybody. Thank
Hi.
you for introducing me.
Welcome
Appreciate
back.
it.
Let's hear. The title of this one says, Don't Overdo the Music. It says, Gents, a long-time listener, and I appreciate your Bucs content. I really wanted to leave this complaint alone because I choose to pick my battles, and I'm fine with the podcast, but my one major complaint is your attempt of using music during your transitions, specifically the length of time you use the music. For instance, you got too cute with Fine Young Cannibal's song She Drives Me Crazy to introduce Carmen Vitale. You played a third of the song to get to the Drive Me Crazy portion of the song. Come on, get to the interview, man. It just came off as Bush League. This could have been an isolated incident, but it continues to be a recurring theme in your podcast. To the point, keep the music transitions short. We came here for the content, and I appreciate adding transitions for the professional feel, but 5 to 10 seconds is all you need. Keep up the good work, guys. Danny.
You know, remember when you used to, when you first started, you used to like run the music for like 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Ren. No. It was 10 to 12.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was bad.
That used to bother the crap out of me, and I think I heard Mark Cook on a pod actually say something about it. Like, he didn't say the Pewtercast by name, but he was like, well, some of those podcasts run like the music for like 10 minutes. And I was like, I know that podcast. I listen to that podcast. And it used to like bother me too. Like, it wasn't, it was, I don't know, it wasn't put write an email or take me out of the show, but it's like, God, is that everyone, like when you'd stop talking for a second and then you realize the music's still playing, it's like, Jesus, the thing's still playing. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And then you figured that out. But I will say, Danny, that I am with you on the Fine Young Cannibal. I don't get to pick the music. I rarely get to pick the music. But I did not like that Fine Young Cannibals thing. I found it even a touch creepy. And I think, did I tell you that?
You did. Yeah, you did.
I did. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. And I thought it went too long too. So, but if that's your only complaint, if that's the one song, I'm with you. But if you got a problem with all the other ones, man, then I don't know what to tell you, bro. Yeah,
well, I think he's talking about the length of those. And, here's the thing. As you referenced the intros, those intros, the music plays and always has played under the entirety of our intro, at least for our what we now call our Final Thought show. It used to be our main show.
Right.
Just what changed is the length of our intro. Like, I think the intro for our last episode was under 2 minutes, right? And they used to really go like 10 minutes long, which was just ridiculous. So I'm totally open to changing up the show. And here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to kind of throw this back out there to other listeners. Now, I'm not going to read all these emails as they come in, but I'd love to know, like, what do you guys think of the music? Because I am totally up for changing this. Just to peel back the curtain of how this really works. Ren and I get done recording this, and then I still spend like another hour putting the shows together. And a good portion of that is spent on music and picking music and trying to add new things that are in there. This particular song, She Drives Me Crazy, was sort of an inside joke between Carmen and I, where she had talked about how she drives her boss, or I don't know if he's her boss, somebody in her office, Scott Smith over at Buccaneers.com, how she drives him crazy. So, that was kind of
okay. Yeah, that's much less creepy.
That's where it really came from. But the way, I used to spend all this time with the music trying to edit it together and make it sound good and smashing the parts, which, by the way, is very difficult to do. Where there'd be a beginning, a middle part, and an end. And usually they run about 45 seconds, maybe a minute. just to kind of give, just get people into it a little bit, give them a little bit of a break. But eventually where it really came down to was I start the song and then I let it go to the end of about the first chorus and then I cut it out, honestly, because it made editing easier. It shaved off like 30 minutes of my editing time. And most songs get to the end of their first chorus about a minute into it. So that's generally how that works. So, but listen, well, first of all, there's other things that we need to do to tighten up some of that music, some of it to make us able to go out on certain other platforms, because certain other platforms won't allow us on there using copyrighted music like that. So, and I'm not sure that it's fully legal, but I don't care. It's we're a podcast. If they want to send us a cease and desist letter, we'll do that. But anyway, I'd love to turn this back out there. Yeah, I'd love to turn this back out there to the other folks. Just out of curiosity, do you guys find the music transitions too long, too obnoxious? Do you like the songs, not like the songs? Shoot me an email, let me know. I'm always up to putting stuff back around. But as Ren said, if that's really your only complaint, Danny, cool. Thanks for being a listener. I definitely appreciate feedback like that. But glad you enjoy the rest of the show. And very much appreciate that. And thank you for the stars. All right.
I think Danny also commented on the YouTube part of that.
Did he?
Like that show, like went underneath it and was like Fine Young Cannibals. What the heck?
There's a couple people that commented on.
Pick.
Yeah, that was a rollback to the 80s. So
were all the comments negative?
Negative to neutral.
Yeah,
it was not people's favorite song, and that's that's fine. And by the way, that's another way that I pick the songs, because I try not to reuse the same songs, though I do sometimes. A lot of times it's 1:00 in the morning when I'm putting these things together, and I'm just like, okay, what sounds good here right now? Sure, that works. Let's go. I try not to spend too much time with it. So, but anyway, moving on, we've got one more iTunes review. This one comes from Ricky from SD. I'm going to assume that's San Diego. Give them some cred. 5 stars. It says, would love to see what these guys could do with media credentials, because they are crushing it right now without them. Takes are always spot on, and I can see a Pewdie in their future. Keep it up, Rick from San Diego.
Well, thanks, Rick. Was it San Diego or South Dakota?
San Diego. San Diego.
Yeah. Okay. San Diego. That's what we're working for. I mean, Brent, made it no secret that we're looking for credentials. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and, baby steps, man.
Yeah. But thank you for sending that in. If you would like to leave an iTunes review, we would love to receive that, and we'd love to read that on a future episode of the Pewtercast. All you have to do is just go over to iTunes, log in, search for us, leave us a rate, leave us a review. We always prefer the 5-star kind, but we'll take any kind that you want to give us, and we'll read your review. We'll do that on a future episode. And when you do that, it just helps other people find us as they are searching for Buccaneer Podcast. Really helps elevate the show through the search engines and things like that. So very fun there. All right. Let's do a couple of emails, Ren. We've actually got quite a few here tonight, so we'll try to get through these. The first one comes in from Alex. It says, Alex here from Daytona Beach, Florida. Huge fan of the podcast. I listen to you guys and some of the other Bucs podcasts on Podbean while at work. So I started watching football. This is by the way, the subject here is who made me a Bucs fan. I think we asked Alex in a previous show how he became a Bucs fan.
Right.
He said, I started watching football in middle school, and FSU was the team that I watched. At the time, Warwick Dunn was so exciting to watch. So when he was drafted by Tampa Bay, it was easy to keep watching him in the Tampa market. That being said, I started paying attention to all the players, Sapp and Lynch, Barbara, Allstott, etc. So when Dunn left, I stayed with the team, and I've been a Bucs fan ever since. I need them to go to the Super Bowl again because they went when I was in basic training and was unable to watch the game live. I only found out 2 weeks after the Super Bowl when I graduated boot camp. You guys take care, and thanks for all the more detailed news on the best team in the world.
Are you serious? Like, you're that cut off in boot camp?
I guess. First of all,
crazy.
Thank you for your service, Alex. But I think in boot camp, I think that's probably about right. You're pretty much. I've never been in the military, so I don't know. But from what I understand, I think you're pretty much cut off from the outside for the 6 weeks or whatever that they send you there for.
Wow! Like, you can't get a newspaper?
Apparently.
I mean, I guess I can understand them, like, you not letting you have phones, but I mean, don't they have military issued tablets and stuff like you train on to have like internet access? Well, maybe not back when, I guess tablets really didn't exist back in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That just blows my mind. You had to wait to get out of boot camp to see who won the Super Bowl like that. That's almost unbelievable to me.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, like I have the personality trait that if there's something that I don't believe, I will tell it to your face and say, make me believe it or give me more facts, like prove it to me, make it true to me. But one, he's not here, but I believe him. It's just, if it was somebody not in the military told me that, like if I know you've never been in the military, and if you told me that, if you were in boot camp, you're so cut off, you get no news of the outside world, I'd be like, you're lying. You're not going with this conversation. Obviously, I'm way more upset about it than you are. You're like, just shut up, bro. Like, okay, that's it. Where's the conversation here? Why are you so stumped, Ren? Like, they don't get information. That's it. End. All right. Move on. But that was a cool story, though, about how he stayed with the team after Dunn left.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he still followed Florida State and is a big Jameis fan.
Yeah, or now whatever team Derwin got drafted for, is going to go follow them.
Can't believe you brought his name up.
Alex, thank you so much for your email, and we definitely look forward to hearing back from you and interacting with you on future shows. All right, next email comes to us from our buddy Alan. He's one of our patrons, and Alan wants to weigh on the Winston Fitzmagic debate. Now, to be fair, he did send this email in before the Steelers game, just so everybody knows. He says, I posted my comments on YouTube, but I think this topic is going to be a hot-button issue heading into the next week, so I thought it was worth repeating, and I'm starting to feel that I'm not alone in these thoughts. I am not on the hot hand side of the debate, but with Fitz playing this great, it definitely gives us options. We have to remember that Jameis is the reason Fitz is starting. He's the one that screwed up. This isn't because Jameis was injured and coming back. It's because he was stupid and he was suspended for some actions. Yes, Jameis is the future, so it's crazy talk to say trade or cut him. But he really could have hurt this team, the GM, and the coach's future. Fitz didn't just save everything so far. He's on a historic run. You don't change things when you're performing at this level. Even some players are starting to come out and publicly say that Fitz should remain the starter. There's nothing wrong with continuing to sit Jameis on the bench and be the backup this season, as long as Fitz is continuing to win. It needs to be embedded into his skull that this team is bigger than him and his immature behavior will no longer be acceptable. Handing the team back to him with what has happened in his absence sends the wrong message to Jameis and to the team. You potentially risk losing the locker room and maybe even fan support if handled incorrectly. It's just my 2 cents. Alan.
Yeah, well, we've made our thoughts, pretty clear on this multiple times. I'm still in the camp that Jameis has been preparing for Chicago for 4 weeks. That's the only game he's been preparing for. He's a better quarterback. He's not 35. He's your future. Start him. I think this dividing the locker room stuff is a bunch of crap with a team like Jameis. Now you get personalities in there like Terrell Owens. Mm-hmm. When you have people like that in your locker room, I can understand how that splits the locker room. But Fitz isn't going to do anything to split the locker room. So and at the end of the day, I really don't think the players care that much. They just want the best. I think they want the coaches to put the best player out there, give them the best option to win at the end of the day, and I think Jameis is it. So Everything you said about Jameis doing to himself, I agree. It's not like he's injured. I agree. Fitz playing well, I agree. But we saw, even though you can take those interceptions and start making excuses and poking holes in the theory that Fitz threw 3 interceptions, he still threw 3 interceptions, man. I mean, we saw the Fitz that we thought we might see week 1 and week 2. And we saw it for 1 quarter in week 3.
When people feared he'd go 0-3 or 1-2. Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Wait till he does it and then doesn't snap back? What are you going to wait till he does it in the 4th quarter? Yeah, it's like, I get the bye week excuse. And, I talked about on another pod earlier tonight, we were on a Chicago Bears pod, sort of a preview show there, that sitting Winston this week, you sort of have that built-in excuse of it's a short week, which really it's not. And that it's might be like as a punishment to Jameis to make him sit this game, as in, if we were 0-3, Jameis would be starting, but since we're 2-1, that kind of gives the organization leniency to put him through that one game where he dresses out with the teammates and has to sit there and watch on the sidelines where he's able to play. That'd be the first time that I would probably say in his career that he was able to play, even college, and he's not playing.
Dressed in on the sideline. I mean,
yeah. He's been hurt and not been able to play. He spent his freshman year, with the clipboard in his hand at Florida State, but he was never dressed. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the first time where the coaching staff or the team or the organization is deciding to play someone instead of him where he is able or can play. So I think that has a little bit to go into it.
I know he was the team. It was team discipline action had kept him out of one game after the yelling in the cafeteria incident. But he wasn't dressed. He was suspended for that game by the team. So
remember he came out at pregame warmups with the uniform on.
Right. So
Jimbo made him go back in the change.
I don't remember that. That's funny.
Oh yeah,
I didn't watch that. I didn't see that.
That's what I started to think. Like, this guy is like a psychopath, man. Like he just doesn't get it. It's like what? And then of course I've learned that's just sort of the way he is. Yeah. He's like I know I'm not playing, but I'm out here with my guys. I'm going to warm up, and he's like, no. It's like, go put on your civvies, man.
Right. The only thing, and I'm not picking on Allen specifically, it's just he brings this up, and I've seen this in a lot of places, so I'll address it. And I think I mentioned this on, it might have been the Buck in the News show last week, or I don't remember exactly where I talked about this, but he talks about how you've got to sit him, you got to get it through his head, the team's bigger than him.
Right.
This reinforce something with Jameis. And the only problem I have with those kinds of ideas, it's kind of even when people say, Jameis has to start acting more mature. He has to start doing this. He has to start doing this. It assumes that he hasn't already done that. It assumes that the team hasn't already gotten this into his head. It assumes that Jameis still doesn't get it. And I don't know that that's the case. It might be. I don't know. I've never talked to him. I don't fully know, but I would assume the message has been sent loud and clear to Jameis. And in fact, I know as we record this, he gave his very first press conference earlier today, and I only got to see the first couple of minutes of it.
Yeah.
But there was one headline that came out of it where basically said it was an eye-opening experience for him or something of that nature. So I'm not entirely sure what all that means and what all that is. I want to go back and look at that. But
we'll talk about the Buck in the News. It was a little painful to watch for me.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was very close to the interview that he had to give after he was suspended. Remember the Bucs came back to training camp and they waited a day, and then that where he just kept deflecting, going back to I can't remember what he was saying, but it was just it felt uncomfortable. Like, oh, this is not really going well. I mean, it wasn't like a dumpster fire, but it felt like to that, but just with like a happier overtone on it, where he was deflecting and going back to prepared answers and things like that. There was very few times where I felt that he was answering like right off the cuff, like, oh, you know what? This is what I think about that. Everything else felt very rehearsrsed, and he didn't spit it out that well. Mm-hmm. He was sort of stumbling over his words sometimes. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but it wasn't. I'm not going to be like it's a terrible look, but it wasn't a great look. It was just It was like, could have done better. Could have been worse.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next email. Thank you, by the way, Alan, for sending in those emails. Yeah. And thank you for your support on Patreon. Next one comes in from Jim. This is a question for the podcast. He says, hey, guys, thanks for your very enjoyable podcast. Here's something I'd like to ask you. Quote, unquote, character is a quality rarely mentioned in the discussions of the Bucs. However, in my years of playing, I recall it coming up all the time, particularly from my coaches. So how important is character in building a good football team? And how would you assess Winston, your franchise quarterback, from the standpoint of character? Thanks, and looking forward to your discussion. Jim from Costa Rica.
Well, I think the Bucs do discuss character all the time. They just don't use the word character. You could go back like a few years ago when Jason Light would say something like Doug Martin might be a carrot guy. Or when he brought in, Bo Allen and Mitch Unrein, he was saying, they're grit guys or they're glue guys. He even said the same thing about Ryan Jensen. Like those are all describing someone's character, but instead of just using the generic overall word, I guess. And how would I judge? What would I say about Jameis? Was it judge or how do they phrase the Jameis Winston question?
How would you assess Winston, your franchise quarterback, from the standpoint of character?
That's a tough one. I think Jameis Winston has very strong character. I think he was woefully lacking in the way that, and I don't know where it went south or wrong, but I feel that he's woefully lacking in the way that he views women as a whole. Now, I don't know if it was because he was big man on campus all the time and people were always throwing them, or I shouldn't say people, women were always throwing themselves at him. So it seemed more like a commodity, something that you could get all the time. So it wasn't something you had to work for. I don't know, but I think just about everything else, which when you talk about characters, it's like, how do they treat other people? Well, the women in his life, I think he treats great. His friends in his life, I think he treats great. His family, he treats great. He's a hard worker. He tries to inspire others. He tries to lead by giving. Like there's lots of things that are great about his character, but then there's just one huge glowing thing, and I'm not trying to downplay it or anything, but 10 years ago wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But sort of what's in the forefront now in the climate and the culture of the United States is the treatment of women. Mm-hmm. So it becomes such a red flag because it's happening now. It's coming to the forefront now. But so I guess I think flawed's too strong a word. Like we all try to work on ourselves, right? It's like it's never a finished product. It's just that being in the spotlight for as long as he has been and will be, when you have something that is so obvious to so many, and then when you have to sort of be sat down and have it explained to you about why what you're doing is wrong, it's a head scratcher for all of us that it makes you think that somehow he's broken as a person. And I just don't think that's the case. I just think that the worst part about his character just happens to be a very big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah. So 2 questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, answer me this. Where you go? Answer me this. If Jameis Winston never had the incident with the rape allegations in Florida State. You can keep the standing up, you can keep stealing the crab legs, and then never had this Uber driver incident. Would you consider Jameis Winston with A+ character?
Well,
from what you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's such a hard question to answer because I've never met the man.
Yeah.
Like I've never said hi to him. I've never shaken his hand. I've never, I've
never seen him interact with people, really.
I've been about 5 feet away from him, in public events, but that's about it, So it's all observing from him on that. But I mean, he asked two questions. The first question is how important is character in building a good football team? I think that in building it depends on what you mean by good football team. Do you mean a team that wins? Then I don't think it's really that important. Because you can get into, like, if your only goal of success is winning, you can win and be a jerk about it.
Yeah,
you can win and be an asshole, right?
And have a bunch of a-holes on your team.
Yeah, exactly. If you're trying to build a
Tony
Dungy team, then it's absolutely important. I think that having people with good character certainly helps the culture around your team, and that's a phrase we haven't talked a whole lot about at all recently. But I think that certainly helps, and I think that a good culture builds to a winning tradition. As far as Winston, everything that I have seen, this is where I'm going to kind of fall back a little bit to Malcolm Glazer. It was not Malcolm Glazer. One of the Glazers, their answer when they sat down with Rick Stroud over the summer is everything that we know about him, everything that we have seen with our own eyes here in Tampa. The dude's a fine, outstanding quality guy.
Right.
And that's the only thing that I can really go on. I wasn't out in Arizona. I wasn't at Florida State. I didn't know who Jameis was back during Florida State. Assuming everything's true, and it probably is. This thing, I don't know.
He might be just one of those people that can have sort of, is the outstanding character guy, but when outside influence such as like drugs, which I'm not saying he does, but I'm just using an example.
Well, in this case, alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I was getting to. And alcohol just changes you as a person. Like I had to quit drinking brown liquor because like it would totally I would not be me. Like I was the guy picking fights, not picking fights like, hey, let's punch. But I would be verbally aggressive to everybody around me.
Right. And here's a question.
I can't do this anymore.
How old were you when you made that decision?
It was yesterday. No, I know what you're saying.
I mean, you weren't 23 or 21, right?
No, I wasn't. No, but I also didn't get into situations where, it jeopardized my career. Right. And was plastered all over the newspaper. But yeah, I see your point. It did take me till I was about, 27, 28 years old till I realized that, it's this, this, which happened to be brown alcohol, is making me a wackadoodle, and nobody wants to be around me when I consume it.
Sure. So I don't know. I really I don't know. But from everything we know about Jameis, everything that we have personally seen and experienced, Jameis is a good, upstanding guy. And that's the only thing we can really go on,
Yeah. Which is sort of hard to say when you think about what happened.
Right.
It's such a hard thing. Anyway, I guess to put a button on for me, I think Jameis is outstanding character, for most things, and I think he's learned his lesson. And I would be, I would be shocked if he ever has anything like this happen again if he stays sober. Mm-hmm. Like really, I would be floored if this ever happens again. Because one thing Jameis does in his football game is he recognizes mistakes and he works really hard to improve them. And he has done that year after year after year as a Buccaneer. Right. And I can't really see why he can't translate that to his personal life.
And that's fair. And I would say the thing that makes me probably the most nervous about him and about character and about things going forward is not something new that Jameis would do, but something old from his past that might get brought up. Something else that he might have done years and years ago that might get brought back around. That would be, I'm more concerned about that than I am about anything new that may or may not happen. So, but but as far as what it means to your actual football team to winning games, I hate to say it, but I don't think it wins. I don't think it means much if you're talking about just wins and losses, because assholes can win. So. All right, thank you for that, Jim. Definitely appreciate that. All right, next email comes in from Corey. Also, I think this was another one we asked how you became a Bucs fan, because he tells us. He says, "Hey, Brent and Ren, I love the show. Hailing from Toronto, Canada. Ren, what's the Canadian football team there in Toronto?"
Argonauts.
There you go. Only became an NFL fan 2 years ago and enjoyed watching the Bucs during 2016, mainly because I was a college football fan of both Alabama and Texas A&M players like Mike Evans, Justin Evans, and O.J. Howard, which brought me to this team during Hard Knocks when I decided that they would be my team.
All right.
There you go.
There you go. I wonder why it took him so long to pick a team.
Because he was messing around with the Argonauts up there.
He was in boot camp for 6 years.
Possibly.
Possibly. Yeah. Well, that's a cool story. He's a new Bucs fan, like you said, 2016, and that seems to be it's. If you're not from here, or like your parents weren't from here, or it's not a family thing, it seems the two things that most pop up is I was a fan of a player in college that got drafted or went to the Bucs,
yep,
or I played them on Madden.
I haven't heard the Madden one.
I've heard it twice.
That we played them on Madden. Far more I hear I was a fan of such and such player and just followed them through their career. The one I really like is the guy that, and I'm sorry, I forget who it was off the top of my head, who said that like he was a fan of work done. Alex said he was a fan of work done. You hear about this like Rondé Barber or something like that, and they watch them through their career, and then when they stop being a player, the person continues to be a fan of the team, like beyond the time when that player is with the Buccaneers. I think those are kind of fun. So, all right, moving on. We have another email. This one comes in to us from our friend Trevor over in Orlando. And this one's a little longer, so here we go. It says, "Dear Brent and Ren, I actually got to go to the game on Monday night, and it was really cool to see the Tony Dungy Ring of Honor induction. The first time I saw one of those in person. It was not cool seeing all those Steeler fans. I was sitting in section 128, which is the lower southeast corner, and the ratio in that section was about 5 Steeler fans to every 1 Buccaneers fan. The rest of the visitor side was at least 50-50 Steelers, lower bowl anyway, and the home side appeared to be mostly red, but there were several thousand fans wearing black and gold throughout the stadium. I know that the team's fans travel well, but that was just crazy." There was a lot. I think you generally see that for these big, primetime games, Ren. But I think if he's also sitting in the lower southeast corner, isn't that generally the section that they sell like group tickets to for the opposing teams?
Yeah, and in the corners, not necessarily the end zone, but the corners of the end zone.
Yeah.
That's where, not a lot of people have season tickets in that area.
You're right.
And so, that's where a lot of them go to. And that's probably how he got his. It's you go on the website and there it is. There's your spot. Oh, what's the cheapest seat? There it is. Mm-hmm. But the Bucs kind of did this to themselves when they jacked up the prices for the Philly game and the Steelers game to. I don't think you could find a seat for. I think $100 was like the cheapest one.
Yeah, way up in the nosebleed.
Yeah, and that's just absurd, man. Mm-hmm. And and I don't really think it's so much of a thing if it travels well. But Pittsburgh has fans everywhere because a lot of people, and I don't mean to be mean about this, and I might not know what the hell I'm talking about, but Pittsburgh is not too far behind Detroit as far as infrastructure crumbling. like the city itself. It's an old city. Like, downtown's nice, but as you get around the outside, it starts to it's and like I said, I might not know what I'm talking about. I've also heard it's a city that runs itself, but a lot of people move out of Pittsburgh and go to other places. A lot of people come down here, and if you have a chance to buy, if you're not a season ticket holder and you're a Pittsburgh fan, and you're going to go to one game, and your team comes within, like 400 miles of you, and it's a Monday night game, like, you're going to go to that game. If you're a Bucs fan and you're not a season ticket holder, and you want to go to a game, and you go and you look at, oh, well, there's Philly. Oh, wait, that's $100. Oh, look, there's Pittsburgh. Oh, that's $100. Oh, who we played? I think we played Cleveland at home, maybe. I don't know. We'll say Carolina, because I know we play them at home. But here's a Carolina game. Oh, the cheapest one's like $60. I'll go to that one. So, because you're there going to see the Buccaneers, you're saving $40 just by their opponent. So I sort of feel like when the Buccaneers jacked up these prices on these quote unquote premium games, that was what's going to be expected to be seen there. And if you're a season ticket holder and you're not a diehard and you want to, maybe make back a quarter or half of your season ticket purchase by selling a couple of seats to Pittsburgh fans, you should be allowed to do it, because once you buy it, it's yours.
Yeah. And, I'll say it the other way too. When you put at least when you do it on the NFL exchange, you put your tickets up for sale there, you don't know who's buying your tickets. You have zero control over who buys those tickets. It's just they're up for sale and they get sold. So it could be Bucs fan, it could not be. So, I don't stress too much about the not selling your tickets to non-Bucs fans. Because it's just kind of the way it's set up. If you have tickets, try to go. And listen, I say all the time, everybody has a price, and my price is a little bit more stupid, I think, than some other people. I had my tickets for sale at a very stupid price, and nobody paid stupid, so I went to the game. So,
what'd you put them up there for?
Oh, it was like $650 a piece or something like that. If somebody paid me that much money, I'd stay home.
That would have been about half of your tickets, right? Or a quarter? About half,
there.
A little less.
Getting there.
All right, fine, never mind.
Getting there. All right, but Trevor continues. He says, to the game, this was a tough loss, and every phase of the team just played poor enough to lose. I will say he is sending this in the very next day after the game. So, played just poor enough to lose. 3 turnovers by Fitz, Godwin dropping a pass and a fumble. Conti got trucked. He actually got trucked twice. That'll bring out all the haters. The defense giving up a touchdown late in the first half. The holding call on Djax for the punt return. I know they scored on the following drive anyway, but that would have saved about 3 or 4 minutes of game time. And if any one of those things doesn't happen, the Bucs have an excellent chance of winning the game. After the first half, I did start with Fitztragic, which was a very impulsive reaction to how he was playing. He somewhat redeemed himself in the second half. However, I think for this week, I'll drop any descriptive suffix and just refer to him as Fitz. The magic may be gone, but it wasn't a complete meltdown either. I think he'll be starting in Chicago, but a similar or worse performance there, very possibly with how the Bears D is playing, coupled with another loss, will likely lead to Winston starting after the bye week.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of doing the if this or this didn't happen, we would have won. And I went into a little bit with Corey on the Instacast, the guy from Corey Draper from the Play Reaction, because it starts. Did you listen to it?
I did. Actually, okay. I thought you had a very good point, and I'm glad you bring it up, because I was going to if you don't.
Yeah, if let's say Fitzpatrick, okay, we'll say Chris Godwin doesn't fumble that ball. As soon as he doesn't fumble that ball, it starts a whole new timeline. If you're kind of like a sci-fi fan, which means everything that happens from that point forward is absolutely different, because the offense would have acted different and the defense would have acted different on both sides. So say he doesn't fumble the ball and the Bucs go down and score, and that makes it like, what would that make it? Like 10-7, 10-6. No,
something like that. Yeah.
10 to 2. We scored. We had 7. We had 7 at halftime, right?
No, we had 10 at halftime.
But we scored the touchdown.
The touchdown in the first quarter.
Okay, so we go down there. So say it would have made it 14-6. Right. Now the way Pittsburgh comes out offensively is going to be different than they would have come out offensively when they're down 7-6 and they got the ball in our 40. So it just starts a new timeline, and then you say, well, this penalty and that penalty and this block and that fumble and that whatever you want to interception, whatever you want to call. If you start from there, that's a whole new timeline. That's why I don't like to go back and sort of pick on those things of only if, unless it's in like the last series or last couple series of the drive. But then that's not fair if something bad happens. Like, well, if only he would have made that kick. Well, he shouldn't have had to make that kick because you did fumble the ball in the second quarter. Right. So it's just the way it is. It's the way it plays out. So pointing fingers at refs or certain players or anything that happens in the first 3.5 quarters, I'm just not gonna entertain that. If you want to do that, that's fine. I get it. A ton of people do it, but to me, it just makes absolutely no logical sense to be able to state as fact is that we would have won if not of this happened in the first quarter. I just can't do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love that idea of the timeline and the alternate universe because it changes everything. But and here's the thing: I fall guilty to that, especially last year. If we would have made that field goal, we would have won, or if we, it came down to this or that. One thing leads to another, and that's how it works out. So I like that idea, but I also understand. Man, if this thing wouldn't have happened or that thing wouldn't have happened, I get where we do that. It's at the end, it's all of these things added up. It wasn't any one of it's like a missed kick. A single missed kick doesn't lose you the game. You shouldn't have been that close to begin with. You should have stopped them from scoring, or you should have. Right. But I get what he's saying because I fall trapped to that too. This whole Fitztragic thing. Just stay with Fitz. If I say Fitzmagic, it's just because I smile at the end of it and wink because we talk about the expiration date on Fitzmagic. Like we all knew it was there. People are like, oh, let's just get rid of Jameis and let's run with Fitzpatrick for the rest of the year. And I'm like,
this is something that's been bothering me for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
And I see people on Twitter that I follow that start complaining about, I didn't see anyone actually happy that Chris Conte was hurt as a person. I didn't see anyone attack him as a person. I didn't see anyone say, let's go with Fitzpatrick and trade Jameis. Where are they? Who are you following? Or is this mostly on Facebook? Where are all these people getting these really terrible, terrible takes?
It might be mostly on Facebook. Now that you say that, because I don't track them, but
do you look at the fan sites on Facebook a lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not on Facebook at all. So
I am, but I just because I feel like I have to. I feel it's like having okay, it's like I have a driver's license, I have a birth certificate, I have a Facebook account. I feel like I have to.
And there were some during the instant cast, there was some that was in the chat room and stuff. And I know you were in the middle of the show. I wasn't, so I got to read the chat room. I was like, that's not okay. But yeah, there were people that I viscerally remember seeing say, good, I'm glad he's hurt. Now he can't play. Or hopefully he's really screwed up his knee so he can't come back in. Or, something
I don't
have
a problem with either one of those.
I do. I don't wish injury on people. I'm not
I don't
okay
think
with
they're
that.
wishing injury on him either. They're just okay, he's hurt. Well, the bright side is, now he can't screw up the game for us. Now, them being right or wrong about their assessment of his talent, we can take into effect, but I don't really have a problem with – it wasn't good, he's hurt. I hope he doesn't get another paycheck and ever play in the football league again and his wife leaves him and he loses his hat. That
That's what some people say. I'll have to find it for you and send you that, because that's the level that some people go to, Red.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to find that and show it to you, because it's ridiculous what people get into. And I think I said this to Chef the other day, or someone. There are some people who say, "Oh, he's trash," or "He's a piece of shit," or "He's a piece of whatever," or what. And I think when people say that, they don't necessarily mean him as a person.
No.
They're really talking about his play, but that's not what they're saying. They're saying he is a piece, and especially the people, like when you tag him, he sees that. Like, I don't, and this may just mean me getting in the feels again, which I know your emotion chip is broken right now. So,
has been since birth.
But I'm not okay with it. And like I said, I'm not going to tell people how to run their Twitter account, but I would encourage people to listen, attack his play. That's fine. We can have that discussion, but and not just him, but I mean, people in general, just be careful with what you say. It's just encouragement. All right. Anyway, moving on, he says it was surprising to see Godwin struggle. He spoiled us with such consistent performances when called upon, that seeing the ball leave his hands so many times was disappointing. However, given that credit that he has built up, I'll chalk this up to him being young and will have a bad game every now and again.
Yeah, I think Chris Godwin has spoiled us sort of early on. But having said that, it was what's weird is he did really well in the DAC stats, but it doesn't take away for bad plays. Like, it doesn't take away for drops.
Uh-huh.
And really, that touchdown, the first one was it's kind of like a Fitzpatrick interception. You're like, well, yeah, he threw a pick, but and it's like, well, yeah, he dropped it, but it was the guys did get his hand in there, but he could have done more to catch the ball from the beginning. It wouldn't have been a big deal. The fumble, everyone fumbles the ball, but when it's like when Humphrey fumbles the ball, it's like, what?
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah, it's such a disappointment because, you never do that.
Yep.
And this is such a big game, and that's the worst time you could fumble the ball ever. And it's just, it's sort of that spins out of the control. But, he had great catches, caught another touchdown pass. Obviously, they were feeding him the ball. They liked the matchup, which is something I think we're going to see as we go, through the season, is that some, like Godwin and Djax are going to get fed the ball more than another from game to game almost. I think Mike's uncoverable, so it doesn't really matter. But you might see the game, like the Saints game, they were running the offense through Deshaun Jackson. Mm-hmm. This game, they were running the offense through Chris Godwin because they felt that was the matchup. And they were right both times. Like if Chris just would have hung onto the ball or not fumbled it, it could have been a really different game. But then, he had the 3rd and 18 screen play where we thought okay, it's a punt. It's a give up play. And, and he put his head down and got that extra last couple yards and got a first down, So it's such a hard way to judge his game because he had a good game, but he had a bad game too, and I feel like C's like a cop out. But anyway, I'm not worried about it either. I think, he's far surpassed a 3rd round wide receiver draft pick where we thought he was going to be when we drafted him,
Yeah.
It's going to be the guy of the future,
He was
he'll
the steal
be next
of the draft, right? Isn't that what some people kind of quietly said?
Yeah, and they're like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and he was on the field. He was blocking a lot. This was the guy that's going to come in next year, when the Bucs released Deshaun Jackson because of his salary, and they needed to sign some free agents or some of our own guys, and he'll slide in. But he, his arrow has been trending up so fast now. 3 games into his second year, they're running the offense through him. Mm-hmm. So disappointing, but I'm really glad he's on the team, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the response to this is very reminiscent. You brought it up of that when Adam Humphries dropped a pass last year, and it was a key pass. It was a key catch that he dropped.
Fumble
or a fumble or whatever it was. Yeah, but it's just where Adam is so consistent. To see him do that was just it was mind-boggling, and kind of the same thing here. Very similar. All right, Trevor closes up his email. He says the defense was very hot and cold. It seemed as if they couldn't get the Steelers off the field within 5 plays. The drive resulted in points for Pittsburgh, And the worst was that drive ending in the first half, in which the Bucs offense just put up 3 to close the gap with 1:15 left, and the defense gave up a touchdown drive. That can't happen when you're trying to get back into the game. The lone consistent performer was Catanzaro being perfect on his kicks. At least we don't hear anyone claim if we only had a reliable kicker, we would have won that game.
We talked about the defense, the past 2 pods and how we think they played better than they actually did. But that, besides the last 2 possessions where we thought, we got them pinned deep, we can get the ball, and the first one was a run around the outside for like 30 yards. They ended up stopping them, and getting the punt, so that was good. But then the last drive where it's like, okay, we got 2.5 minutes and 2-minute warning. The defense needs to step up, and they didn't. And they didn't really. I'm saying they didn't really put up a fight. Of course they did, but what I'm saying is how easy Pittsburgh made it look to sort of pick up those first downs and end the game. That was the other drive where you're just like, God darn it, defense. I really would have liked for you to not let them score for a minute 12.
Right.
So we could have sort of like finish halftime on like a little uplifting thing. But, in the end, they only gave up 23 points to the second most powerful offense, or, statistically they were right behind us in offense.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been putting up points. They put up 38 against the Chiefs in a loss, and they put up 21 and a loss to the Browns where Roethlisberger threw 3 or 4 picks. So, I mean, they're putting up points. Mm-hmm. So 23 is nothing to hang your head at when you give them 4 turnovers.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Trevor, for your email. Our next email comes in from our good buddy, Chef Aaron.
Chef Aaron.
And he is yelling the entire email. It's all in capitals, the whole thing. And
is it from his phone?
I don't know. Maybe.
Look at the bottom.
It
usually
say.
send it from his phone.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Doesn't say it from my iPhone?
No, it doesn't say.
I always found that weird. You would always put that part in. Sent from my iPhone. I'm like, why do you say that?
Because it was funny. All right. Anyway.
Oh, okay. I never asked, so I never did.
Laugh. All right. Here's what he says. He says, this game was your typical tale of 2 halves.
Louder. Just kidding. Please don't.
No, I'm not going to. This game was your typical tale of 2 halves. An absolute horror show on both sides of the field in the first, and a complete team effort in the second. I'll say this. Yes, Fitz has done a hell of a job for us, and he's earned the starting job for another week after recovering from being Fitz tragic and becoming Fitz magic in the second half. The O-line was brutal to watch in the first half with missed assignments and missed blocks, and Fitz was under duress all first half. I will say one of the interceptions was not his fault with Evans running the wrong route, but the other 2 were the one being tipped by the defensive line. It's not like it was a linebacker or a DB tipping it. The reason why I say that is that the defensive line is closer to the quarterback, and the quarterback should be able to see an incoming defensive lineman. The overthrow to Quiz was straight bad, and that led to the pick 6. Other than that, way too many drop passes and an uncharacteristic fumble by Godwin, which we just addressed. I must say there is blatant hypocrisy going on with the media and some in the fan base with Fitz's 3 picks. So many are wanting to give him a pass, whereas if that was Jameis, he'd be crucified for it. I don't care how the Jameis Winston haters feel about him. Make sure if you judge Fitz the same way you rip Jameis, when Fitz has been in the league longer and has been an interception machine himself.
That it?
I will pause there. Let my eyes
I didn't hear any questions in there.
Nope. I'll keep going. He says, on to the defense. I am done with excuses for Smitty. This is year 3 and communication is still an issue. There is telling me, hold on. This doesn't make sense. That is telling me that there is a disconnect with Smitty, his coaches, and the players. It doesn't take this long to figure out communication when you have mostly vets on the defense and only 3 rookies. Davis and Stewart look promising, and Whitehead has done well, and R.I.P. Chris Conti. We have a pass rush, 2 of the best sideline-to-sideline linebackers, and what looks to be promising rookies in the secondary, and this defense is still giving up a 78 completion rate to the quarterback. I understand that we faced Breeze and then we faced Foles, who was just replaced by Wentz, and Big Ben is not the QB that he once was. I swear if this defense makes Trubisky looks like Peyton Manning, something has to be done with the scheme or Smitty because it is not working. Making Trubisky look like a Hall of Fame quarterback, I have officially hit rock bottom. Also, this D-line needs to learn to finish sacks. We finally have a pass rush going, but no, we're missing the sacks that are there. I know plenty of holding calls were missed in the game, especially the one on Curry, and I think I heard someone on our D-line got tackled, and how is that not a penalty? I will never understand. I will say this. I know people get on officiating a lot, and I probably get on them more than you do, Ren. I know you don't really get on them a lot, but there were so many, and I mean, and when I was watching the film, keep in mind I'm watching the defense, our defense going up against their offense. There were so many egregious holding calls on the Steelers that never got called. I mean, it was plain as day, and just things that never got called. Lots and lots and lots of stuff. For as much as the refs threw their flags in that game, there was a lot more things that they either missed or they just let go.
Well, were they all in the second quarter?
A lot of them were. A lot. I mean, it was. That's
the only quarter that really matters.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the Steelers' offense, it's the only quarter that really matters.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't like to jump on the refs, but there are some crews out there that aren't as good as others, and sometimes as a crew you just have a bad game. But I guess with the offensive line, it would have been the line judge, and he just had a bad game, or maybe that's just the way he calls games, and Pittsburgh knew it and we didn't. So there wasn't really. That was more of like a voicemail, I guess. Really, like a question. The only thing I guess I really would want to address in that, because it was just kind of a recap of the game, and how he feels about Mike Smith, which is nothing new, and I will say that I am also looking at the Chicago game as sort of where this defense is, because they're not very good. We were just on a Chicago Bears podcast. I think he says the defense only scored 4 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks. Like that's you should be able to walk some guys down in the box and make Trubisky try to beat you, which he hasn't been able to. The defense has been carrying that team. So if we don't turn the ball over, we should win this game. If we don't turn the ball over like we did against Pittsburgh, we should win this game. But I'm wanting to see what this defense does. This defense holds the Chicago team under 20 points, then I'm starting to get excited about it. But if we win this game like 31-28 or 32-35, and oh God, if we lose this game 31-28, I'm right back where I was last year. This is sort of the litmus test for me for our defense, because Chicago right now is not a very good offensive team. They have a young quarterback who hasn't taken that leap yet in year 2, with a lot of new players that haven't gelled yet. And I know they got some running backs that are dangerous, but I mean, if that's all you got a game plan against is just a run game, any defense in the NFL should be able to shut that down. So I know I've said I think the defense has played better every week than the score would indicate, but this is, like I said, this is going to be the one where there's no excuses, because this isn't an explosive offense. This isn't 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks and the Eagles, and Nick Foles, no Hall of Fame quarterback, but the Eagles are still in everyone's top 5 in the power rankings. They're still a good team with a really good roster. It's not the Chicago Bears.
Right. All right. Well, Chef, thank you so much for your email. Ren, we got one more final email of the night. And
how many do we have?
6. This is number 6. maybe 7. I'm not sure. This one comes to us from another patron, another one of our Patreon people. You guys can find out all the goody stuff about that over at patreon.com/thepetercast. Support the show and get some fun kickbacks all at the same time. But this comes to us from Dimash, our man Dimash, who's also part of our fantasy league this year. He says, gentlemen.
How did you do this? How did you do this week?
I won all across the board. Yeah. Pretty handily, too. All right.
Wait.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How'd you do?
Thanks, Brent.
Sorry.
It's all right.
You got me on a one-track mind here.
No,
how'd you do?
I wanted to go 3-0, but I want to shout out to It's My Balls, I believe is his team name. It's Will White.
Okay.
This guy, I'm just gonna have to eyeball it, I guess. I want to get these stats right, but he is 0-3. He has scored. Oh God, he has scored like 425 points, I think. He scored the most points in the league, only behind me. He's averaging like 130 points a game, averaging 130 points a game, and he's 0-3. And
he's 0-3?
0-3.
Wow.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm talking about. This poor guy. I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm pulling it up. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's close. Nope. Let's not do that. Sorry. All right, here we go. With My Balls, Will White, 0-3. He has scored. I lead the league with 452 points. He is behind me at 442 points. 0-3. The next person doesn't. No one else has 400 points.
Wow.
Nobody. He has his points against are 461. So in his 3 losses, it's been less by 20 points in all 3, like combined. This kid has the worst luck, man. I just want to throw that shout out there. You gonna cut all
playing.
that?
No, keep playing, man. Keep playing.
Anyway, a little shout out to Will White there, and I'm not even sure that's his real name. That might be isn't that from Breaking Bad?
That was Walter White.
Very close.
All right. Anyway, Dimash says, gentlemen, one comment and one question on our run game. Overall, I'm disappointed in it, even accounting for our emphasis away from running in favor of passing. Barber has flashed, but you still see why he was an undrafted free agent at times. Wilson has been a non-factor. At this point, Rodgers looks like he has no business with the ball in his hands. I've seen multiple situations where he was in the open field but had no shot to make a linebacker miss. Sure, he can catch and is an excellent at pass pro, but he's missing the running part of being a running back.
It's true.
Says,
it's hard to argue.
Am I being too pessimistic? I know Rojo probably is down because of pass pro. There's no way he isn't an upgrade to what Quiz is offering, right? What's your guys' best guess on his outlook? I love the show, and still go Bucs. Demetrios from Largo by way of Northern Virginia.
Yeah, I just talked about it on the last pod, so he's going to get this answered a couple of days early.
Yeah.
And I'll just go over it real quickly. I agree almost everything you said 100%. The only reason I'm saying I almost is because I really don't remember everything you said. I don't want – if you want to make Jacquizz Rodgers your third down back, that's fine. I don't think he needs to carry the ball at all. I don't want him spelling Barber for entire series because you're not using Barber enough to make him tired. From what he's getting in the passing game, Barber can do just as well. And so you have all that, and that adds up to make Barber your 3-down feature back, put Jacquizz Rodgers as an active, and bring up Rojo to see what he can do because we have the worst rushing attack by average yards in the league. And it's time just to get Rojo a helmet and see what he can do. Even if it's just for one game, man. Just let him see what he can do.
I agree. I think I also said that the running game it's not a concern for me yet. No. I'm not panicking about it yet, but it's a concern. Like I'm keeping an eye on it. So, I know why we haven't used the running game, so I'll kind of let that go. But it's still got its issues.
It's not really a story until we really need it and don't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it comes a game where it's weather or maybe the quarterback, whoever it is having a bad day, or the game plan is to keep the ball out of the other team's hands, like maybe the next time we play the Saints, like, listen, we're just going to try to run the ball and keep the ball out of Drew Brees' hands as much as possible. Like, and then we can't do it. That's when it becomes a problem. Right now, we got the highest rated quarterback. 3 of our 5 receivers are top 5 tight ends, top guy. It's just be really hard to have the top running back too. So it's not a problem until it is.
Mm-hmm. And for the record, Jacquizz Rodgers, he played 9 snaps in special teams, which accounted for 28% of special team snaps. So, I don't know exactly what role he's playing.
That means he's not on field goal or extra point, and probably not on punt coverage.
Right. So,
or maybe punt return.
I would think
he's on kickoff return because he's an up back. He's an up back for Wilson.
Right.
He's one of the guys that are right in front of him. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so again, is that something that Rojo couldn't
find
do?
Somebody else,
or somebody else, just somebody else? Exactly.
Will Clark.
Exactly.
Martino.
So, all right. Well, Dimash, thank you so much for that email. And to everybody else who emailed in and to the people who left us iTunes reviews, we very, very much appreciate that. If you guys would like to get in on the show, we would love to hear what you have to say. This show comes out as the second half of our Final Thought show. We'll have another one next week for our Chicago Bears show, as long as you guys send in emails. So you can do that to thepewtercast@gmail.com. The good news is there's no / forward or otherwise in that. It's just the pewtercast@gmail.com.
How long is that going to go on for?
Until I stop laughing. And with that, Ren, why don't you tell the fine folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
Best way to find me is on Twitter because, as we have discussed, and now I have proof from Brent that Facebook is dead and it's for idiots. Find me on Twitter @Rendax, REN_DAXT. I am always down to talk Buccaneers football.
And if you guys want to get a hold of me personally, I am @Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. And you can get a hold of the show on Twitter @ThePewterCast or at Facebook.com/ThePewterCast. Patreon.com/ThePewterCast if you'd like to find out about being a part of that growing group over there, how you can support the show and help all these fun things going on that we have right here at the Pewtercast. And once again, you can shoot us an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. Well, Ren, that's going to do it for this show. Our next show is going to be our Buck in the News show as the weekend's out, and we look forward towards the Chicago Bears game. Who's going to start? I don't know. We'll find out, and we'll find out soon. But until then, guys, go Bucs.